5 of 2021 with new regulations. So now, which hasn't been happening all the time. Individual companies have been doing it, though right now it's now a regulation. Every time you have people, rather opportunities in country X, for example, our embassy in that country has to first vet that job order. That is number one. If the embassy is satisfied by that company and they are sure that our people are going to be safe and stuff like that, then they are given an approval. And that approval now comes to us. And then we also submit to our ministry for further administration. Coming back to your particular question, first of all, Ugandans need to understand that in regards to domestic workers, because I know that's where the biggest issues are coming from, domestic workers are only allowed to work in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Only in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as for now, or as per now. But if you want to know which country, apart from Saudi Arabia, for domestic workers, other job opportunities, you can one, check with our Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development here in Kampala. If you're up country, you can check with your district labor officer because they have this information. But also, if you want to know whether this company is actually licensed to do this job, you can actually check with ISO as well, or DISO, they're called DISOs, District Internal Security Officers, so that you can get this information. That is one. Secondly, Robert, we need to understand that there is a process. And that process begins with the job order approval, like I've pointed out. So once the ministry is convinced as well, remember the embassy, then the ministry, then they are able to give this company a job order approval. That allows you to actually go ahead and recruit Ugandans. So after you've done that, then you're able to advertise and recruit these Ugandans and stuff like that. Then you submit their biodata for vetting to the ministry and to get actual clearances. So that is another process. But what we need to understand, Robert, there is a process. And that's where most Ugandans become impatient.
Yes.
For example, we've had a challenge of Interpol, like I've said. I wouldn't really want to blame Interpol as such, but the numbers are so big. We have very many, and the process. Now the whole debate was: is this really necessary? If I'm going to work as a domestic worker in Saudi Arabia, why would I need an Interpol? So the government rethought about that and came up with a new way of handling that, and they said, no, if you're a security guard, yes, you need Interpol. Yes. Right. So the rest of, for example, domestic workers now, they don't require Interpol. But if you're working as a security guard, yes, you need one. So I think that is more logical. Secondly, that now answers your question of fighting human trafficking. It's an indirect way. Every
time you reduce delays,
yes,
it makes people, Ugandans are impatient sometimes.
Exactly.
More so when craving for employment.
That's right.
They're usually impatient, and some are very gullible.
Exactly.
At such a time, any crook can come and take over. But Ashe,
right.
Also, I want us to look at another problem that I see.
Right.
Of late, we've seen operations, police carry out operations, I'll speak for Kampala,
right.
Where we've seen day by day there's a new company. I don't know what is happening. Every time there is a new company coming up in labor externalization.
Right.
And police has kept on recovering, what I call recovering girls from some of these homes where they are kept. It's not safe, it's not secure. And how do you regulate this industry, to be honest? Because it seems lucrative. I don't know, I'm not in it, but
right.
How do we come up with regulations to ensure there are standards, to ensure there are basic standards? Because it seems once you clear with the ministry, you register, then you can get these orders, advertise, the girls will come, keep them in whatever condition because they are desperate, and there you are.
No, Robert, I want to make this categorically clear. This sector is actually well regulated. I must say that. And that's why we have new regulations. But there have been challenges. And these challenges, you can't really put them on the whole sector. These are individual, mistakes here and there. That yes, of course, if I wasn't in your sector, I would also think the same way, as other Ugandans may as well. But what we need to understand, what is the cause of that? If we just look at the root cause, and I'm not saying what they did was right, but what was the cause? Number one, if you have training centers closed, you have people who are supposed to travel. Where do you accommodate them? The logical thing is to find accommodation for them. You go rent out houses, accommodate them there as you plan to get them out of the country. But maybe the mistake there is, one, you've not informed the authorities. Two, the SOPs are not being followed in these particular facilities. So if these two were done, I don't think we'd be talking about this, honestly. But the good thing is that, like I've told you, the presidential address was very clear. On the 1st of November, all training centers will be reopened, and then will be in operation once again, following the SOPs. So for me, that is the whole thing. Then secondly, our society is very, very suspicious of anything to do with our sector. And they don't have information. So it's forums like these that we're supposed to use to inform and sensitize the public about what we do. For me, I know, when I looked at that clip, that news clip, I realized that it was just lack of information. When you look at the LC1 chairman, he was very clear that they've not been giving me access. So he was suspicious as well. So it's just suspicion that people don't have information. But when you have information, you're well placed in answering some of these questions. So truth of the matter is that our people are not really, sometimes don't communicate. And communication, in many cases, turns around a lot of things. So for me, that was the only issue that I saw. And I know that the SOPs were not observed in those accommodations. But for now, as someone in the sector, I know what that company was trying to do was to basically find a quick solution to make sure that these people accommodate in this area, in these places, as we're planning to get them out of the country. But you can see they're already cleared. They're just waiting for their time to leave. So that is it, Robert.
Well, I just have to remind our viewers that you can be part of the topic of discussion by simply going to your phone or anywhere where you can access social media, maybe you're in office, your desktop. And please be part of this discussion. Send us an SMS, send us a WhatsApp message on the number 070960 2592. 070960 2592. And I'll be reading all these messages, and our guest in studio will be replying or responding to them in regarding to labor externalization, where of late we know that a number of Ugandans, actually more so those that go as domestic workers, day by day keep on increasing. A month, imagine, we see young girls leave this country, about 13,000 to go to the Middle East. By the way, let me ask, why Middle East?
Robert, at the moment, I remember in the early days, people used to go to Europe and stuff like that, but then there was a credit crunch, if you remember. That hit the Western economies so hard, so most of them are just recovering. But of late, the Middle East has created very many opportunities for very many nationalities. And by the way, I want to inform the public, it's not just Ugandans that are going to the Middle East. You know, for example, Robert, you may not know this. In Saudi Arabia,
the Philippines.
Yes,
mostly actually. For me, when I was doing studies about this, I found that Philippines is sending more than even thrice what we can as a country.
Of course. People from the Philippines have been going to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, working there for the last 40 years. And Uganda have only been there how many years? Not even 5 years. So you can imagine. And if you look at the remittances that go back to their country, you'll be amazed, Robert. So for me, I think we just need to understand that right now, that's where the opportunities are. And we go where the opportunities are. We can't go to places where we don't have opportunities. So that is where the opportunities are. And secondly, also, if you look at the world right now, the globe has really changed. Do you know that, Robert, when you go to Dubai, for example, or to Abu Dhabi in the UAE, You find a lot of American and British companies there. Why do you think so, Robert? That is where the money is at the moment. So it is not that, Middle East is the only place Ugandans are being sent, but that is where the opportunities are at the moment.
Well, looking at still labor externalization,
Right.
some of the challenges, we know that of course we take various professions,
Right.
we take doctors,
Right.
we take security people, guards and all this, but we are having more emphasis on domestic workers. Reason being, this is what has come out more in
Right.
the limelight.
Right.
You've seen WhatsApp videos, we've seen all social media has been painted with so much of unprofessionalism.
Right.
Girls are claiming they have been harassed, there have been all sorts dead bodies being returned and all this negative publicity. Sometimes you say it's not true, sometimes you even see victims. But actually, let's come back to the other problem still that we can control here at home,
Right.
which is exploitation and extortion. I'm reliably informed that for domestic workers, certain things are paid for, and therefore these girls, their families, should not sell their cows, should not sell their plots of land in quest for going and working abroad.
Right.
In terms of as domestic workers, these are facilitated. But we hear stories. I spent about $1 million, $3 million. There was a contribution. We sold a plot of land. What is right? What amounts? What should be paid?
Right.
So that people know exactly to avoid this.
Right. Robert, the ministry is very clear with the regulations. What we're supposed to, what Ugandans are supposed to pay for what kind of job openings, and for me, I think it is just sensitization of the public. People just don't know. And in most cases they don't want to research more, find out more. But the ministry is very clear. If you go to the ministry website, it's very, very clear. This information is there. If you go to your district labor officer, this information is there. So for me, I think that is to do with us having more interest in researching, in seeking information, in seeking guidance. But this is a very, very clear thing. And it disturbs my mind, Robert, because we've been talking about this over and over and over and over. And the reason why most people, come up with, different rates and stuff like that is because you're not informed. So if you're not informed, I can come and tell you, oh, Robert, guess what? Your court right there, I can get it for you at 1 million shillings. And yet that same court, you can get it at 500,000 shillings, for example. So it's just having interest. Don't just say yes to whatever you're being told. Do your research. Find out from the ministry. They have toll-free numbers. They have this information. If you're out of Kampala, talk to your district labor officer. This information is there. Then you should be able to actually work with a company that, one, is licensed. Two, you have the information. You know exactly what you're supposed to pay and what you're not supposed to pay, because the regulations are very clear. That is what I can say, Robert.
Still looking at challenges in this sector. Of course, positivities are there,
right?
But we want to look at the negativity in this, because one of the issues we are facing as a country, much as we talked about earning about 1.4 billion US dollars a year, if we do not stop this negativity, one time the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia threatened, to ensure you don't have more domestic workers that are Ugandans because of the negative publicity. So we must iron out some of these issues. Let's go to another controversy in this externalization of labor, which is actually people claiming they leave Uganda, being told they are going to perform different duties. Then when they land in these countries, they end up being given different jobs. I have a person who told me, yes, when I reached there, I was told I'm going to be a diver, a lifesaver. I've never done any swimming lessons. I know nothing about swimming. We've had girls who claim when they were leaving, they were being told they're going to be domestic workers. Reaching there, well, they were handed over to a company, then a company to another company, and they were told, yes, here you are, your ladies of the night. So how do we need to have more information still on this now that I have you, Ashen.
Wow. Robert, I'm very, very disturbed by that statement, the very last statement you've made, because if you've left this country to go and work as a domestic worker, in my thinking, I know for sure you've had a sensitization on your contract, you've gone through the ministry approvals, so why would you go and then someone pushes you into something else? That shows that there is a problem. But that also shows that you're being trafficked. Because the former channels, the former companies doing this job, the licensed companies, Robert, I need you to prove me wrong, but I highly doubt that that person went through the right channels, because our system is very clear. Before you leave this country, you've gotten the necessary approvals, the visas, of course the clearance, which is counter-checked at the airport, by the way, because there is a Ministry of Labor desk at the airport to counter-check these clearances. So I think whoever that person is must have been trafficked, because our system is very clear.
But actually, even just within this, last week,
right,
we saw about 3, 4, 5 companies that were deregistered because of forgeries.
Right.
That is of COVID-19 certificates, forgeries of, pass slips, forgery. There's so much forgery. And this, in this particular sector, has been the order of the day. Every time we see the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, we want to thank Afande Nakalima for the good work being done, because I think she's put more emphasis on curbing these irregularities. Issues of forgeries are too many, too much sometimes.
Right, Robert. And I condemn such acts of forgeries and stuff like that, because the system is clear. But I also know we've been having challenges. But having challenges does not grant you to do forgeries. I mean, if those companies were found guilty of any offenses, I mean, let the law handle that. But I also want to understand one thing, Robert. It does not mean because my company has been raided by whatever unit that I'm guilty. That is what I want to think. Yes, there could be some issues that are not clear, that you need to go and clear with the authorities. So if there is a problem, yes, you go and answer to the authorities. But secondly, if indeed they've caught you red-handed with forgeries, let the law take its course. Because for us, we are for ethical recruitment and safe migration for our people. So for me, I do not want to focus on people that are not following the law, because I mean, when you don't follow the law, Robert, you know the repercussions. So I want to focus on people that are doing this job diligently well, and are here to answer the question of unemployment of very many young people in Uganda.
Let's look at the supervision outside Uganda.
Right.
Because yes, you get the contracts, you deliver these people. How, to what extent do we have monitoring and supervision of the domestic workers? Because these are indoors. So to what extent do we get there? We've had many, sometimes ending up on the streets, and we hear stories like she escaped. We've had many say, I can't communicate with the people home. They don't allow me access to my phone. So to what extent, how as our government, how have you as the people in this business ensured that there is continuous communication? Ensured that these girls are safe in these houses? Arabs build massive houses. Sometimes there are families of generations and generations staying together. So how do you go into this and ensure safety of this Ugandan, which is paramount?
Right. First of all, Robert, I need to thank you for that very good question. When we talk about safe migration, we also look at all those aspects. And the very first thing is that, remember, all these companies, our partnering companies in Saudi Arabia, they were all vetted by our embassy in Saudi Arabia. After they've been vetted, even the companies themselves, they have criteria of actually choosing these clients. Not everyone that walks in is offered this service. No. They do background checks on these particular clients to see that are they of good conduct and stuff like that. But secondly, even actually in the new regulations, August 2021, the new regulations I've been talking about. Now, for every company out of Uganda that wants to employ Ugandans, they should be Ugandans seated in that seated in that company to follow up on their issues. So I'll take a very good example of my own company, Jersey Limited. I have 5 people in the partnering company I'm working with in Saudi Arabia, 4 supervisors and a full manager, to follow up on any queries, any complaints that may come up. But also, we also have our own internal system in my office, where we have 2 Arabic-speaking Ugandans that are there to follow up on the team in Saudi Arabia in case they've raised an issue and the team has delayed to respond to it. Our own team follows up with them and the client at the same time to see that this is handled in real time. And yes, when there are challenges, it's a very simple thing. You cannot run out of the house. When you run out of the house, that is trouble for you. The police is going to arrest you, because in Saudi Arabia you don't just walk on the road. No, you don't just, because I mean, of course they will ask you. There are areas where they don't expect people to be walking, so definitely the police is going to ask you, stop you, and try to interrogate you. So if you run out of the house, you've made it worse for yourself, because you'll be detained by the police, then they have to investigate while you're in custody and stuff like that and stuff like that. That is why for us we encourage our teams, if there is a problem, for us what we do, the mechanism is very simple. Have the client produce the girl at our offices, and then we have a complaint mechanism we follow and resolve that issue. If the girl is unable to work, then we arrange for her a repatriation.
That is where we've had also problems where some people have alluded to the fact that the family is then told to either pay her return ticket or compensate the remaining time of the contract. How true is this?
Yeah, I know the contracts that the domestic workers sign. Of course, they were agreed upon by the 2 nations, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and then Uganda. And it is in the contract that you're supposed to compensate in case you've not finished your contract and the reasons are not strong. It's true, that is there. But then the practicability part of it is what sometimes becomes a very big problem. But it's true, that part is there. And if you don't have strong reasons why you're not completing your contract, or you're not finishing, or you're not seeing through your contract, yes, you're supposed to compensate the employer 3 months, or if the employer also terminates the contract before its end, they're supposed to compensate you 2 months. So it's both ways. It's relevant.
We'll be now looking at some of the messages that are coming in regarding externalization of labor, the challenges that are being faced, and how best can we streamline to ensure that we do not have these challenges. Because actually what happens, these are issues regarding life. If a girl is mistreated in any of these countries where Uganda has contracts to ensure workers are there, then sometimes we've seen losses of lives, but also sometimes that the media and people we do not see is the challenge of negative publicity, its impact to the bilateral relations, but also its impact to our economy. So please send in your message. That is on our number, that is 0709 60 25 92. We are discussing a topic and we are looking at more issues of human trafficking. We need your contribution on this, and Asha will be responding to most of your concerns regarding externalization of labor. We refer to a person leaving their country to go to another country. Here, most pronounced has been that is the Middle East and the United Arab Emirates there. So please send in your views and I'll be reading them out to you, and Asha will be responding to many of them. And that is the number on your screen. Keep them coming in. I'll be reading them out. Well, Asha, as we continue to look at this externalization of labor, also another challenge that we face has been actually understanding these contracts.
Yes.
You know, when a person is craving for employment, even those we think are very educated. Remember one time you had a minister who said I signed on a document and hadn't perused through
Right.
So this is a girl very desperate.
Right.
This is a company that aims at the more numbers you take, the more profits you make. Where do we draw this balance? Because many of you ask them, you sign a contract, hey, so how do we ensure? Because for you're going to hold this vulnerable girl, that yes, you signed a contract, and this is your signature, but at the end of the day, I don't think this is justice, this is fair enough.
Right, Robert. Thank you for that question. I need to tell you something very interesting. For example, I'll use Njazi Limited as an example. For us, we first of all vet. You remember there are interviews. We don't want to take people who are desperate. We want to take people who have goals, people who know exactly what is taking them. That's why the ministry came up with a pre-departure training, so that people are trained. You know, they go through that whole process, and actually at that same end of training, they can still opt out if they want. But because we want to take people that are focused, that are ready to work, we are able to push and ensure that they are sensitized about the contract, because we don't want to take people who have not understood the contract. Excuse me. Focus on understanding the contract, clause by clause, in the different languages you understand. If you've not understood, or if you have any complaint or any query on any part of the contract, we give you time. Please, today don't sign. First, go back, think about it, then come back. But remember, these contracts are also signed by 4 parties: the candidate here in Uganda, the head of the externalizing company here in Uganda, her employer, and the head of the company in Saudi Arabia. So, sensitization of the contract is a very key part of our process, and we follow that. Thank you, Robert.
Well, let me try and go through some of the messages that are coming in. Hello, good morning. Please, is it only in Arab countries where you have jobs? What of European countries? Someone is asking. Please leave us your name and preferably where you are watching from. Yes, that is a question to you, Asha.
Right, Robert. No, to answer that question directly, no, it's not just in the Middle East. There are other parts of the world that have opportunities, and that's why you hear people, Canada, you know, the UK, the US, and stuff like that. So it's not just in the Middle East. We're talking about the Middle East because mostly this is where you find a lot of big opportunities at the moment.
Let me read a couple of questions. Hello, good morning. Okay, that one we've handled. Let me look at this. Do you inform the workers on which job terms? Okay. Do you inform workers on which job terms of work? Do they have an appointment later? Who profits more from these workers that is exported? The company recruiting them or the workers? That is. Then let me also check another one. How do you tell this is the right company or wrong? How does his company ensure security on its clients? How much is he connected to his clients out there while they are working in terms of safety? Are they being paid or work for free? I think in the interest of time, let's first handle those.
Right. Robert, one, how do you tell that the company is right or wrong? I'll begin with that. Kindly, you can find out from your district labor officer if you're out of Kampala. They have this information of all registered and licensed companies. If you're in Kampala, you can visit the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. It's just right behind CPS. They have this information. Or you can visit our offices as UERA. It's called the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies, and We are located at BMK House next to Hotel Africana, level 4. Secondly, they asked a question on who benefits.
Who benefits more? Is it the worker or the company?
No, it's actually our nation, Uganda, that benefits. We were very clear in the beginning of this show. We said that we bring in $1.4 billion annually. So it's our nation. And yes, the workers benefit more because what we're looking at is transforming their lives. And for us, that is the most important thing. And indeed, that's what we do.
Well, I have someone complimenting you in the interest of finally. Hi there, I love his English. He's so smart. I love watching him talk. Keep up the good work, Mr. Ashe Chitandwe. Well, unfortunately, didn't leave a name there. But Ashe, let me have your final remarks regarding labor externalization, the challenges and the way forward.
Right. Robert, thank you very much. I appeal to Ugandans to kindly work with registered companies. When you work with a registered company and there are challenges, the government, the system in place is very easy, finds it swiftly possible to handle any challenges that may have come up. So please, let's work with them and let's desist from human trafficking. Anyone that tells you that I can quickly get you out of the country without going through the formal channels, desist from following what they tell you. Because once you have challenges, it becomes very difficult for you to receive help. Thirdly, this is for all of us Ugandans. We need to embrace it. Other countries have embraced labor externalization, and we need to make sure that we take advantage of that. Robert, we have very many people that have left this country and have come back, big people. Some of the company owners today were former migrant workers. So let us embrace this, and they're now employing other people. So let us embrace this, but let's desist from human trafficking. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank you, Ashe Chitandwe, who is the Executive Director in Jersey Company, one of the companies in labor externalization. So much is coming into the country, and of course, many are getting employment. Let's ensure that we follow the right procedures, because only then can we have continuity of labor externalization. Negative publicity will damage this entire opportunity that we have. Have a lovely day. God bless you. Remember, COVID is around. Perfect the soaps and kindly go for vaccination. It saves a life. It saves the future of your loved ones, your children, because only when you're alive can their future be granted in most times here in Africa. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Let Ruben take you on with sports updates.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all